Dear participants, welcome back. We hope that you've had a refreshing break, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we start, I would like to inform you, for all of you who have asked for the presentations, so for the presentations of the first day and the second day up until before this panel, we've uploaded the presentations in the website. So if any of you want to get a hold of a presentation, you can go to the website. And of course, by tomorrow, all the presentations will be there. Ladies and gentlemen, now we've reached a hot topic in the scene, cybersecurity. So we're going to discuss skills for a safe and secure use of digital technologies and online information. Please join me in welcoming our panelist and moderator, Ms. Natia Kukuladze, Commissioner, Georgian National Communications Commission. Good luck.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. I know this is end of the day, the last panel, and you must be tired, but we propose that we will have very important discussions on a very important issues such as skills for a safe and secure use of digital technologies and online information. I have very interesting panelists here with me, experts like David Wright, CEO, SWGfL and Director, UK Safer Internet Centre, United Kingdom, Ms. Rūta Jašinskienė, Training Coordinator, NRD Cyber Security from Lithuania, Mr. Guy Ngambeket, Director and Board Member, ISC2, Datuk Zulkarnain, Mohd, Yasin, Deputy Managing Director of MCMC Malaysia, and Najib Mokni, UNESCO Office to the Gulf States and Yemen Program Specialist. Thank you very much. I believe we will have very interesting discussion. And starting from you, David, we know that you have more than 20 years experience in online safety. If you could tell us what are the challenges and what role the education has in contributing this, not to have this kind of gap that we already have here.
Natia, thank you. First and foremost, I wish to extend my gratitude, my thanks for the invitation to form what is an amazing panel. So thank you very much for that. As Natia said, I'm David Wright. I'm CEO of a UK charity, SWGfL, and a director of the UK Safer Internet Centre. So in that context, we're one of the 32 European national safer internet centres that make up the European InSafe network. So I've worked in this space for a long time, 25 years. There's little more important than clearly protecting children. Having seen and worked in this space for over 2 decades, we still continue to see children encountering harm, or threat and harm online. And so their education, the skills, their digital competencies is fundamental, I think, to all of this. It was actually about 10 years ago we had a really important moment. We have been considering risk and threat online through what is now the 4 Cs. Was devised by Professor Sonia Livingston from the LSE back in 2005. And the 4 Cs in terms of the risks that children encounter online, the content risks that they encounter, exposure to inappropriate and unhealthy content, contact-related issues and threats, so where they may be abused or bullied online or indeed exploited, conduct-related issues where their conduct is the issue, and then finally contract, so where there could be forming that little tick box that we all tick when we read and accept the terms and conditions, which you all clearly diligently read. But those contractual issues, or again unhealthy contractual issues, threats that children encounter. So content, contact, conduct and contract-related issues are the threats that we see. One thing I'm going to dwell on just momentarily, which we've been really critical of, is particularly of schools and formative education, where they primarily focus on the harms online. So where children are shown videos of exploitation online, often law enforcement led, in a school hall perhaps through a structured program. On the premise we show them what exploitation looks like, they'll be able to recognize it and avoid it. We don't learn to drive cars by watching films of car crashes. And so what was revolutionary for us was the transformation into the development and the identification of what is digital competencies ranging from age 4 through age 18. What children should be doing online rather than what they shouldn't be doing online. So I'd encourage you to go and visit what is projectevolve.co.uk. This is this huge project that describes the digital skills and digital competencies that children should have in I can statements. So as a 5-year-old, I should be able to do this. So if I'm teaching 7-year-olds, what are the skills that my 7-year-old should have from a digital safety perspective? Only last week, we published a report. There's tools in there available that's used by 70,000 teachers and 15,000 schools. And there's the ability to understand children's actual competencies. We've had 3.7 million assessments conducted. And so an academic report was published last week that discloses what those strengths and those gaps are we have with children's digital skills from a safe and a secure perspective.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rūta, we all know that there is big demand from the employers because they own cybersecurity skilled staff. Are there any gap between demand and supply there, and what are the skills that they seek for mostly?
Thank you, Natia. Sometimes I think people underestimate what is cybersecurity skills or cybersecurity experts. Cybersecurity isn't a rocket science. So cybersecurity experts doesn't mean cyber hero or something like that. I would like to say that, first of all, what is really necessary and required for cybersecurity skills and also for everybody currently and in future it will be more requested, this is critical thinking. And what is behind of this nice word, critical thinking? So it means that experts, people, must be able to identify a problem, find the root cause of the problem. This person must be able to analyze, assess the different options, acknowledge that there are many, at least more than one solution to solve this problem. And finally, this person must be able to make data-driven, analysis-based argument decision. Because why is so important critical thinking, not only for cybersecurity experts, but also for everybody? We live in digital age where it's not a problem to find information because we have so huge number of data and information. The problem is to distinguish what is true, what is disinformation. So this is I think that it's one of the most important skills for everybody, for our children and for adults. Another skills, what I want to describe a little bit deeper, this is communication. Also, I speak about skills which are very common for everybody, but it's true. Cybersecurity, as I said, it's nothing magic. So communication skills, why it's so important for cybersecurity experts? Because they need to be able to translate complicated and serious things in very simple way, understandable way to non-technical, non-cyber person, and especially if we talk about organizations, to top managers. Because top managers, they very often are not cybersecurity educated people, and they don't need to know how vulnerability scanning is done or something like that. But they need to hear what say experts and take appropriate actions. Also, another, it's more specific skills, incident management. People, cybersecurity experts, need to know what to do when cyber attacks happens. It's similar like ambulance staff. They don't need to know how to treat all illnesses or do some surgery. They need to immobilize and prevent from more serious consequences, damages. So incident response management is similar. These persons need to know how to immobilize and prevent more serious damage. And I use my time, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rūta. Mr. Guy, we know that you're advising companies in terms of cybersecurity as they need some help, some assistance, some support from you. What kind of needs they have, how they realize if the needs are the ones that they really need, and what are your advices in general?
Thank you very much. I have been fortunate enough to work across multiple continents, Africa, Europe, in the Middle East, and also I am board member of ISC2, so I can speak a bit from the corporate perspective, public and private client. So the first thing is you need to know, ISC2 conducted a study this year about the workforce in cyber, and the gap is 5 million people, 5 million cyber professionals. It's a gap of 5 million cyber professionals. The study also showed that the skill gap is even more important than the shortage in people. That's the skill gap. So you can realize that today companies are even more concerned about bridging the skill gap than even recruiting people, and that has some implications. So when you look at the skills in companies, they need both technical and non-technical skills. Technical skills will be more like you named them, my other co-panelists named them before, incident response, application security, AI, and also some recent trend in cybersecurity, like AI, anything related to the new technologies and how to protect from cyber threat coming from new technologies. This is one. But they also need non-technical skills, and which is important. 70% of cyber threat in companies come from human factor, not from technology. So they need also non-technical skill, and you have the soft skill. I will emphasize again here something important. It's like the communication skill, which is important to be able to communicate the risk to the people, how to protect themselves. And also other skills just for the general awareness on cybersecurity, like how to recognize a phishing, especially as it has become more complicated today with AI, with all of the deep fake, deep voice, etc. It's more complicated today, so people have to be trained how to recognize that and also share the message around them, because the risk propagates, right, to even family members, customers, suppliers. So you need to make sure that all your ecosystem is aware of all those risks to protect your asset and help also using information technology in a secure way. So now, if you look at how the companies address those skill gap, there is first challenge is, and this is also something that the study revealed, there is a gap between what hiring managers think is important for cyber and what cyber professionals believe is important. So sometimes while trying to bridge the gap, there's that discrepancy, that disparity that doesn't help. But of course, with a lot of communication and a lot of alignment, this can be solved. And then more concretely, how they solve it, they train. They use free and paid training to upskill and reskill their employees. The reskilling part is important because they are able to take people that do not have cyber skill and convert them into cyber skill. And then if you look at the outcome is to get people knowledgeable and secured. And I will emphasize something important, building a culture. And building a culture is across all organizations, starting from the top, making sure that leaders are onboarded, and also building some communities around cyber to ensure that the right message is shared across everyone in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guy. And Mr. Zul, we all know that you worked on a very important and really interesting initiative, which is called Click Wisely initiative. If you could tell us about it, what targets did you have on this project, and how did you manage? What happened?
Thank you for the opportunity. When we regulators talk about bringing access to services, communication services, and digital services at the same time. When we started, when the explosion of the internet, we not only thinking about at the design part, we are not just thinking about bringing access, but also looking at designing a program that ensure the safety and secure and responsible use of the internet. Now, when we talk about access, it's about opportunity and risk. But one aspect of opportunities, normally we talk, or most frequently talk about opportunities in the development of human development. But the other aspect of opportunities, also threat actors, criminals, pedophile, and any person that has the criminal intent has also the opportunities. That part of it also need to be communicated to the public. When we talk about risk management, and that is the other challenge, we talk about risk just now. Talking about risk management is a very challenging subject, and to disseminate it to young children and to talk to them, even to the general public, it is quite a challenge. They cannot fully embrace the risk related to online. So when we bring access, is opportunities to make people the two-dimensional aspect of opportunities and threat. So when we incorporate, we take leadership in this space, because otherwise there will be nobody. It is no man's land. Nobody will take leadership. Nobody wants to take leadership or initiative. So we think when we bring access, we also have the responsibility to ensure the security, safety, and responsible use. That's why this program or initiative is all about. Now, of course, at the initial stage, our focus is always children. But as the other important element where we have successfully implemented this is that to have a feedback loop, collaborations with the academia, higher institutions of learning to do some research on the impact of this program. Then we realize from the research outcome that the other challenges is actually parents also. So when we talk about Click Wisely, it has transformed from just imparting skills or knowledge about safety online, but also there's other element of soft skills and communication skills that need to be understood or communicated, because the challenges or the threat actor in terms of online harm become more sophisticated. So your training module need to be changed over time. And these are some of the challenges. One is to impart the technical knowledge of risk and opportunities, but also the other aspect of how they can use these skills and knowledge to implement or to adopt and adapt.
Yeah, it seems it's really very interesting initiative. Thank you. And Mr. Najib, we know that UNESCO has developed media and information literacy framework, which is also very important. If you could tell us how should governments develop media literacy in their countries, and also how does this framework serve for it?
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the ITU for inviting UNESCO and for giving us this opportunity to talk about one of the main priorities of UNESCO and one of the major programs on media and information literacy, which is key for youth empowerment, but also for safe and secure use of digital technologies and online information. As you know, in 2023, almost 80% of young people aged 12 to 24 around the world use internet and use artificial intelligence several times a day. This creates, of course, a lot of opportunities, particularly in terms of education, access to knowledge, access to culture, information, but it also poses significant challenges. I'll give you an example about those challenges, and according to a survey released in 2023 by Ipsos for UNESCO and carried out in 16 countries where elections will be held this year in 2024, 85% of citizens are worried about the impact of online disinformation. 87% believes that this disinformation is already having a major impact on the political life of their country and fear that it will influence the results of their country's elections. So this issue of misinformation, disinformation, and even fake news and hate speech is directly in line with UNESCO mandate. You know, the organization promotes the free flow of ideas by words and image, in order to advance intercultural understanding and mutual knowledge, in particular our communication and the information sector, we work a lot on freedom of expression, the safety of journalists issues, and on universal access to information, particularly through the digital inclusion. As part of this mandate, which is a little bit unique within the UN system, the fight against disinformation and the spread of hate speech has become a priority for our organization. And in response, UNESCO aims to equip citizens, especially young people, with the skills they need to face the challenges posed by the spread of disinformation and hate speech, and to counter the decline in trust in the media and digital innovations. And acquiring these skills is part of our media and information literacy program with three main objectives. One, to enable individuals to critically analyze the information they receive. Two, to enable them to navigate safely and responsibly online. And the third objective is to ensure trust in our information ecosystem and digital technologies. But the responsibility should not rest entirely on the users. This is why UNESCO is also working to provide them with a framework conducive for freedom of expression and access to information, free from disinformation or hate speech. With this in mind, the organization launched in 2023 the guidelines for the governance of digital platforms, and the aim was to ensure that all stakeholders are committed to creating and maintaining an open, safe, and secure environment of users. So yes, all stakeholders are concerned about the media and information literacy, especially policymakers, education stakeholders, and youth organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have time to ask our audience. If you have questions to our dear panelists, please don't hesitate to express it and tell us your questions, please. I think the issues are very important as we are parents, teachers, so on, and...
There's a question there.
There's one question there.
One, yeah, please. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to direct this question to Mr. Najib. He has spoken about the media literacy that UNESCO is really driving. Only next week, we will be celebrating on the 28th, the International Day on the Universal Access to Information. My question, therefore, is, are we really making inroads in terms of capacitating people to know the difference between the freedom of speech and ethics, related to communication? I'm asking this question because Mr. Guy spoke about culture, and he said there needs to be a culture change within the organization. And I think this culture change needs to talk to beyond the four walls of organizations. So at a national or global level, is the culture really changing for better, or is it really changing for worse as it relates to misinformation and disinformation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting question. And Najib, could you please answer, and then we'll go to another question.
Yeah, I'll try to answer.
Because I think she directed the question to you. Right?
Yeah.
Please.
I'll try to answer this very important question. Yes, of course, the UNESCO, work on media and information literacy is, focuses on three main components. The first one is how to support putting in place strategies and policies with policymakers, and we developed tools for that, and I'll explain with more details later. And the second component is also how to integrate media and information literacy within the official curricula in schools. And the third pillar, which is very important, is the work with youth organizations and how we involve them to develop strategies and to work to have their own media and information literacy strategies, and to build capacity of youth on that matters. So it's a kind of comprehensive approach. Of course, there is a lot of risk, and that's why we developed those tools for teachers and learners to be aware about the international standards on freedom of expression, but of course within its limits, and also all the questions relating to hate speech, disinformation, misinformation, fake news, etc., which is not an easy task, but we try to give tools to all stakeholders to put in place a strategy that, of course, conducive for freedom of expression, free access and universal access to information, but also that limits the spread of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. And of course, around the 28th of September, we have the International Day for Universal Access to Information, but also we have a few weeks later, at the end of October, we have the Media and Information Literacy Week, which is the global event also to discuss all initiatives regarding the media and information literacy and to discuss skills that needs to be given to youth to better use internet and digital information. So that's.
Thank you very much. I would like to make some comment about the media and information literacy that you just mentioned. It's an initiative from UNESCO, which is very important, and Georgian, our organization, always joins this week. And I would like the audience to let them know that it's really very important. It's for sharing ideas, initiatives, what organizations do in terms of digital skills, among with other misinformation, disinformation, and this kind of issues. So, yeah, I think we all should share our experiences that we have during the Media Literacy Weeks. Thank you very much, Najib. Are there any other questions? I'm asking the audience now. No questions. Okay, then I have some other questions to all of you, to each of you. David, what is the key advice you would give to the governments in terms of cybersecurity and what kind of national digital skills programs should they have?
Thank you again, a great question, and also another great question that was asked there too.
Yes.
What I would encourage governments to do, now particularly in one context, is picking up the point that Mr. Najib said around education and school curricula. So curriculums are evidently important in this space. We have done a lot of thinking about this, and like I mentioned earlier on, from an online safety perspective, so perhaps subtly different to the security and the technical skills around cybersecurity, the softer skills that I think were talked about. Having some form of curriculum, structured curriculum that is fit for purpose, that is applied universally across education systems, which is what I think I would encourage you all to think about. And again, I'm just going to signpost you to Project Evolve. So projectevolve.co.uk, which is this particular curriculum program that we've developed, taking from age 4 and describing the rather than focusing on the harms, again, like I mentioned earlier on, as Mr. Zhao said, risk is one thing. How you articulate risk in actual fact is a positive thing. Our job is to stop that risk from migrating to harm. Harm is the thing we want to prevent. Risk is one of the things that leads into that. So an understanding, a sensitivity to risk is an important part. And so a curriculum that really reflects that and is sensitive to that. What are those skills that a 5-year-old should have? What I can do. If I'm worried about something, I go and tell an adult. How they would, the sorts of skills at that particular age that are age appropriate. And it grows year by year as their horizons grow. By the time we get to ages 8 through 11, we're worried about we're looking out for our class friends, our classmates. By the time we get to 11 to 12, we perhaps or 13, we're now starting to go online. And so thinking about our wider communities, by the time you get to older teenagers, it's all about considering your broader online communities as well. So curriculum that are based on that, connected to that. And you can only clearly deliver an effective curriculum with capable teachers. And so the question about what does your professional development program look like to support your teachers to develop or to deliver and provide children with these skills. And again, something that we've spent an awful lot of time thinking about, both with the ITU, with the Child Online Protection Guidelines, which I would like to give also a plug to in terms of the revisions that were made in 2020, all sorts of different guidelines under the guise of child online protection. So ones for policymakers, ones for educators, ones for children, and ones for industry as well. The ones that go there, there are also guidelines for parents. And, you know, as a peripheral thing, and perhaps off the back of a structured educational curricula that can be implemented, is considerations for parents. We're seeing increasingly movements, the smartphone-free childhood movement, which in our mind is the wrong objective but has the right intentions. I don't think it's an appropriate necessarily a thing, personally speaking, but it discloses issues that parents are clearly discovering and experiencing in terms of managing their children's online lives. So as part and parcel of that curriculum, I would also encourage you to think about what mechanisms and measures and support there is for parents in managing this too. So again, I just encourage you to look at projectevolve.co.uk, and the report I mentioned we published last week is at SWGfl.org.uk. Thank you.
I have one more question, if I may. So you mentioned that curricula should be created and implemented into schools, and part of it definitely should be teachers, among with pupils and parents as well. Did I understand correctly that parents also should be part of this, so their views, their activities should be considered into the curriculums?
I think there's always a great opportunity when you're teaching children, you need the support of parents. So perhaps including information that children can take home as part of homework, that they can then have a conversation with their parents. So you can stimulate those really important discussions, the support that parents need, and in many cases, you know, one of those activities, those homework could be just to get to explain some of the apps that you might have in your phone. Clearly, it's got to be age appropriate.
Actually, we've just, last year, actually, we started teaching, our government, our Ministry of Education and Science, with our support, integrated media literacy into formal education, and now it is taught as a separate subject in Georgian public schools, which is a big achievement. And it was a very interesting process because we trained teachers, school directors, administration, because they should have realized what it is and why it is important. But we have not included parents there, so thank you for this advice, and this is really interesting. Ms. Rūta, I have one question to you. Can you share an example from Lithuania on how the country has addressed cybersecurity threats through the capacity development and digital education system?
Thank you for this nice and good question. I have a few examples, but let's start from the police initiative, because if you look in my bios, I am a retired police officer, so I always happy to share good initiatives from my former employee. 3 years ago, Lithuanian police launched an initiative called Virtual Patrol. So, and the idea is to be visible in the social media, in the most popular like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. To be visible, it's well declared and announced that, look, we launched this initiative, we will be present, we will monitor these social networks, and please be respectful for law, for others, and don't do illegal things in the virtual digital space, because it's no big difference if you do some crime on the street or you do some crime in digital space. So the idea is of this virtual patrol, there are some dedicated police officers who constantly monitor these social networks and look for illegal activities, mainly fraud, scamming, also hate speeches, disinformation, and they act based on their mandate. It means that they don't block accounts, they don't delete accounts or something like that. No. Lithuania is a democratic country and we have respect speech freedom. But what we do, first of all, we interact with the account holder, owner, and ask to delete inappropriate content and similar things. If people refuse or are not very friendly, so the ordinary pre-trial investigation starts, and it's investigated as normal, let's say, crime. So also all people, doesn't matter citizen or not, are able to anonymously inform these virtual patrols about suspicious activities on virtual digital space. And I looked for some statistics, and I found that during these 3 years, they received more than 50,000 notifications from users of social networks about some suspicious activities, as well as they started about 100 pre-trial investigations. So it's quite a big number, and it means that there are a lot of illegal activities in our digital space. So it's, I will say, a good example of how we can help our society. And very briefly, another one also from public sector, National Cyber Security Center created very nice online training courses, which is based more on testing, self-testing, for different target audience, for students, for employees, also on how to be secure at home. Also, there are some material for teachers, how to teach students on cybersecurity, how to speak, what to highlight. So, and it's for free. And after completing this training, people can receive digital certificate. So this initiative helps for smaller enterprises, smaller companies save money not to hiring special lectors, trainers, but we can educate their employees through this very nice platform. So yeah, I stop here because it's time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rūta, I have another question to you, Guy. It's about the difference. If there are any differences between the skill gaps among the regions, like, for example, are there same or different skills gaps in Southern Africa and Northern Europe?
That's a very good question. First of all, there's a good and bad news. So the good news is that there are similarities in terms of recognizing, acknowledging that there is a problem, there are issues, right? And this is across the world. Now, if you look at the differences, which is maybe the bad news, is first of all, it's not we cannot look at that from a perspective of continent or even countries. It's not like homogeneous masses. It depends on several factors, and the more you deep dive into the way companies, I can speak about the public and private sector, mainly because my other co-panelists already touch base on like students, like parents, which are also some important personas. So when you are trying to address what are the risks and the skills that are needed to protect the society, because that's something that we need to understand, is the society that we need to protect against those cyber threats. So from a business-only perspective, let's say private sector, so it depends on several factors. It depends on the maturity of the company or the maturity of the country or the organization. It will depend on the culture of the organization, and this is why it is really important to contextualize and localize the way to address the skill gap. So talking about the differences, I try to aggregate some results, let's say at the continental or regional level from the study that ISC2 conducted this year from the skill gap. So you will notice that one aspect of differences are the skills that are required within companies to protect the asset of the company. So awareness is everywhere. Everyone understands that the awareness, the general cyber skills are important. Now, if you look at Europe, that will be more like digital forensic, which will be important. That will be cyber threat intelligence, that will be important. Safe and secure architecture design, that will be important. Now, if you look at the Middle East, the respondents were more tended to say it's more data and privacy, which are the important skills for them, and securing communication. Of course, they also cyber security management. And looking at Africa, Africa was more about cyber threat intelligence. How are you making sure that we understand what are the risks and what are the threats against our core assets? And you also had the cyber security management, which were the key skills that show the difference across the region. If we want to do that aggregation again, I want to emphasize that it's more depending on each of the company, depending on their maturity and the willingness to, from the leadership to invest in cyber. Now, there's another aspect of disparities that I usually see is the way actually to address the skill gap that is showing. So in Europe, you will see it's mostly the lack of budget, sometimes and commitment from senior management. Sometimes it's also the lack of, they cannot match the supply and the demand for very specific skills, especially the coming from emerging technologies. When you will be looking at the Middle East and Africa, that's a different story. They cannot keep people. They cannot even retain the right talent, because when they have the talent, they manage to find the talent, they leave, especially good talent, they will leave to go elsewhere. So these are kind of the disparities that I see, first in terms of the skills that are required in companies to protect their asset, and secondly, in the way to solve the issues from those skills arising from those gaps that I described before. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Datuk, I have another question to you. What are additional initiatives and measures that can and should be taken to promote safe and responsible online behavior?
I think in the first round, I talk about opportunity and risk. That's the one part. But the second part, I think what are the additional initiatives that can be taken is we need to look at from the perspective of enablement and empowerment. So when you talk about enablement, it requires investment. Investment, of course, it requires resources. When you talk about when we talk about resources, this is the opportunity where the collaborations can take place. And when we talk about collaborations, it is in the case of Malaysia, for example, we collaborate not only within the communication sector, our industry, but we also collaborate with international partners. We collaborate with UNICEF in the work and ACPAD in our work in respect of child online protection. We also now work with Microsoft in teaching AI Teach to address the one part is opportunity and threat. The other part is about enablement. So when we talk about enablement, it requires a multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder approach that need to come together. That is one aspect of enablement. Now we move to the empowerment. When we talk about empowerment, now SDG is a good example where we get the commitment from the industry in respect of not only their commitment, their participation, as well as their responsibility. So it's a form of, I wouldn't say force, but it is an opportunity, open up opportunity for co-creation. In the morning sessions, we talk about a lot about co-creations, and the panel before us also talk about co-creation, and there is opportunity there. Now, when we talk about the opportunities or co-creation, it comes with responsibility. One aspect of education, of course, when we look at the whole online ecosystem, it's not just the regulators, it's not just the society, the civil society, the NGOs, but also some form of commitment from the platform providers, how we can collaborate to co-create a safer and secure environment. Because we look at the current situation of how this platform or informations or disinformation has been weaponized, has been commercialized. So those are things, is it ethical, is it appropriate? And if any regulatory intervention, it may harm innovations. Where is the middle ground that we can reach together? Co-creations probably is the possibility of opportunities to co-create for everyone to look into how we work together. The platform provider is not just about profits, but also their accountability and responsibility to ensure those users are protected through co-creation.
Thank you very much. Najib, you've mentioned Media and Information Week that takes place every year by the end of October, and it serves for raising public awareness on media and information literacy. What are the other measurements, other steps that you take to raise public awareness on media literacy, why it is important, and what are the threats and actually problems that it serves for to have solutions on it?
Thank you so much for the questions. I'll try to give also some examples when I'll respond. So yes, as I said earlier, the UNESCO strategy for promoting and for promoting the deployment of media and information literacies focuses on three main areas. And for the first component, which is supporting member states to developing and formulating, development and implementing strategies and policies on media and information literacy, UNESCO has developed policy and strategy guideline for the MIL, for policymakers, and I can give you the example of Jordan, and UNESCO is committed to supporting the government in the design and implementation of a national strategy for 2024-2025. This is a three-stage process. It starts with a study on the state of the MIL skills in the country, and then the second stage or component is the national consultations with main stakeholders, and at the end a kind of national validation workshop dedicated for the drafting of the strategy. And of course, regarding the component with education stakeholders, we and aimed at integrating media and information literacy into schools curricula at national level. UNESCO has also developed a complete curriculum for educators and trainers and learners. I can give you the example of Lebanon. And thanks to the training workshops initiated by UNESCO, 2 universities have already integrated media and information literacy into their curricula, and 3 other universities are expected to follow in the coming months. You mentioned already the case of Georgia, and we have now around 32 member states taking steps to integrate media and information literacy into national schools curricula. The third component, which is very important regarding the support to youth organizations. which make it possible to reach a large number of young people, particularly in remote geographical areas. And UNESCO is currently developing a practical guide for youth organizations to enable them to reach and deploy the media and information literacy among their members. And for example, in Tunisia, we worked with the Konsadiki Association to set up MIL clubs in towns of Kasserine, Testour, and Sejoumi, and now around 500 youth organizations equipped to counter disinformation and hate speech with media and information literacy. But in addition to those three main areas, UNESCO is also developing young people's skills in response to some new and pressing issues. For example, regarding the generative artificial intelligence, and this year UNESCO published a policy brief on MAL responses to generative artificial intelligence. And according to this document, artificial intelligence policies and regulations must prioritize user empowerment. It also lists regulatory mechanisms to prioritize for generative artificial intelligence. The other pressing issue is around elections. And in 2024, which sees half of the world's population invited to vote in national elections, the question of electoral misinformation and disinformation is a major issue. And we work a lot within our program on media and information literacy. And also to reach the maximum of youth, we work a lot also with influencers. You know that more and more young people are turning away from the mass media and rely on digital content creators or influencers. So we try to work with them to reach the maximum of youth organizations. So.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Maybe you need any additional information from our wonderful panelists. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. I think we've covered very interesting points because we live in the era of information, which is too much for us, big volume, which is spread very, very fast. And we also live in the era of technological progress, which is also a big thing, but there are threats, and we have to discuss and share our ideas and initiatives so that we overcome these threats. Thank you. My panelists and the audience as well. Thank you very much.